I found out that all my other shirts, the shirts that I actually like, are measured at 15 and a half, 33. All of the shirts that I ordered at Men's Warehouse are all 32.
Damn.
And that's such a big deal because, like, it's on me because I didn't like claim it, but I barely found this out yesterday. And freaking it sucks because I told the guy like multiple times. I remember I'd be like, this is 33, right? He's like, yeah. No, it wasn't 33.
That's really unfortunate.
Well, thankfully I have shirts, right? Or as my great grandfather used to say, shut up and do laundry. It's like, I never had a great grandfather. Hey guys, so today we're going to be reading the book Unlocking the Bible. I think this is the third video I've made. Yes, the third video. Almost forgot. Also, before this video begins, I'd like to point something very clear and it's very important. Well, maybe not super important, but my friend made a remark and I think you guys all should know. This shirt is yellow, all right? It's not white. It's probably because of the lights. I'm sorry. It's yellow though. I made sure to wear this overcoat with this. But it's yellow. It looks white, but trust me, there's a difference, all right? It's probably because of the lights. I probably should have made the lights a little warmer next time, though. Anyways, let's get to this, you guys. So we're gonna be reading. We're gonna be starting, I believe. I think originally we started with the introduction of this book. Now we're gonna be looking at, according to this title, it says the overview of the Old Testament. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I just saw something and I want to show you guys, but my best friend said that I think it'd be good if I just showed it to you guys, but like with my phone, and I can just talk over it. Anyways, though, let's get to it. And I guess Levan, if you want to just give me once it reaches 26, 27 minutes, then we'll be good. But it stops at 29:59.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a Canon camera, you guys. They always stop there. It sucks.
Yeah, I'll go
Okay, that's perfect. He said that. Okay, yeah. Let's just do this. Okay, so it says, God has given us a library of 66 books. The Latin word Biblia, translated as Bible, literally means books. The 39 Old Testament books, which cover over 2,000 years, were written by a variety of authors and include many types of literature. It is no surprise, therefore, that many people come to the Bible wondering how it all fits together. God did not arrange the Bible typically so that we could study themes individually. He arranged it so that we could read a book at a time. The Bible is God's truth about himself and how we should relate to him. Set in the context of history, it tells how people, principally the nation of Israel, came to experience God for themselves and respond to his word. Far from being a dry theological textbook, it is the vibrant story of God's redeeming work in the lives of his people. Many fail to grasp the overall message because they have an insufficient understanding of the background to the Bible. The chapter aims to provide an overview of the Old Testament so that any particular portion of Scripture can be given its correct context. All right, now we're going to be looking at the geography. I think this is the point where I'm going to just show you guys the overall graph that's right here in this book that you guys can't see right now. just so you guys can kind of see what I'm saying. So, if we are to understand the Old Testament, there are two maps we need to appreciate. First of all, those of the Promised Land and the Middle East. The key area in the map of the Middle East is what geographers call the Fertile Crescent, the band of fertile land which stretches from the River Nile in Egypt in the west, northeast, in the west, northeast through the land of Israel, and then south and southeast to the plains surrounding the rivers Tigris and Euphrates, in what used to be called Mesopotamia, which means the middle of the rivers. Meso, middle, and Potamia, rivers. Pretty cool. Okay. This fertile area comprised the centers of power in the ancient world, with Egypt located in the west and Assyria and later Babylon in the east. Israel was wedged between these two, and much of the Old Testament is written with the struggles between these world powers in the background. There are also significant times when their threats or activities impinge directly on Israel. Israel's geographical position made it significant as a trade route. The Syrian desert to the east of Israel meant that traders and armies from the Orient needed to cross Israel's border as they moved between Asia, Africa, and Europe. A mountainous area of basalt rock to the southwest. Oh, hold up, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. A mountainous area of basalt rock to the southwest of the Sea of Galilee funneled the travelers through Jezreel and on through Megiddo. It's Megiddo, so I hope I'm saying it right. A great trunk road entered Palestine through the Syrian gate, running through, that's the Promised Land, running through Damascus, across the bridge of Jacob's daughters, and over a basalt dam to the Lake of Galilee. I hope all that made sense. Sorry for my tongue twisting. It then ran southwest via the plains of Megiddo to the coast plain through Lydda and Gaza to Egypt. Well, hold up. I'm going to reread that again because that's a lot of freaking weird names. Sorry. It then ran southwest via the plains of Megiddo to the coast plain through Lydda and Gaza to Egypt. Israel was a narrow corridor. To the east was the Rift Valley, which ran north to south down to the Dead Sea, and to the west was the Mediterranean Sea. Israel, therefore, was at the crossroads of the world, with trade routes arriving from all directions, and Megiddo, the place where they all met. Overlooking this crossroads was the village of Nazareth, and doubtless Jesus would have sat on the hill there and watched the world go by. This location has spiritual significance. God was planting a people at a crossroads where they could be a model of the kingdom of heaven on earth. The world could see the blessing that comes to people living under God's rule and the curse that comes when they disobey. Israel's unique position is no accident. That's something very unique. Turning to the internal geography, okay, hold up. Turning to the internal geography of the Promised Land, the northern part containing the crossroads of the world was called Galilee, or Galilee of the nations because of its international flavor. The southern part, Judea, was more mountainous and isolated from the rest of the world, encouraging a more distinctively Jewish culture, with the capital of Jerusalem at its center. The Promised Land is about the same size as Wales, like the actual place, not an actual whale. But it includes every kind of climate and scenery. Wherever you live, there is somewhere in Israel that is just like home. The place most like England is just south of Tel Aviv. Carmel in the north is known as Little Switzerland. Just 10 minutes from Carmel, you can sit down among palm trees. Prominent in the land is the River Jordan, which rises on Mount Hermon which rises on Mount Hermon and runs north to south within the Rift Valley mentioned earlier, through the Sea of Galilee and down to the Dead Sea. A fertile plain surrounds its course. All the flora and fauna of Europe, Africa, and Asia can be found in Israel. Scots pine trees grow next to palm trees from the Sahara. In biblical times, the wild animals in the country included lions, bears, crocodiles, and camels. It seems as if the whole world was somehow squeezed into one small country. That's pretty cool. All right, now we're going to be pretty much looking over the history of the Old Testament, if I'm not mistaken. Having made ourselves familiar with the general geography of the Old Testament world, we now need to consider an outline of the history of the Old Testament. And it may sound daunting to have to cover 2,000 years or more, but a simple chart will help us to grasp the basics. I'm going to show you that chart right now. Cool beans. All right. The Old hold up. Yeah. The Old Testament covers over 2,000 years of history before the time of Christ. Genesis chapter 1 through 11 covers the prehistoric part, the creation of the universe, the fall of man in the Garden of Eden, the flood and the Tower of Babel. The focus here is on humankind in general, though including a godly line. But we can chart the history of Israel itself from 2000 BC, when God calls Abraham, though it would be centuries before the nation was formed. The Old Testament period can be divided into 4 equal parts of roughly 500 years each. Each period has a key event, a prominent person, and a type of leadership. In the first period, the patriarchs led Israel: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. In the second period, Israel was led by prophets, Moses, from Moses to Samuel. In the third, they were led by princes, kings, from Saul to Zedekiah. The fourth period saw the priests take the lead, from Joshua, a priest who returned to Judah from exile under Zerubbabel's rule, to I never know how to pronounce his name. It's the priest from in the book of Matthew. It's Cephas. Caiaphas. You know what I'm talking about, right? It's pronounced Caiaphas in the time of Christ. So it was a priest during his time. He was like the high priest. If you read the book of Matthew, you'll find him right there. My best friend's like, I don't know, bro. None of the leader types was ideal, and each individual brought his own flaws to the task. The nation needed a leader who was a prophet, priest, and a king. And they found him in Jesus. Each stage, therefore, was a foreshadowing of the ideal leader who was to come. This timeline is broken by two 400-year gaps. The first 400, the first comes between the patriarchs and the prophets around 1500 BC, and the second after the priest at 400 BC. During these two sets of 400 years, God said nothing and did nothing, so there is nothing in the Bible from those two periods. There are some Jewish books written in the second of these two periods, known collectively as the Apocrypha, but they are not part of the Bible proper. But they are not part of the Bible proper because they do not cover the time when God was speaking and acting. Malachi is therefore the last book of the Old Testament of our standard English Bibles. Then there is a 400-year gap before Matthew's Gospel. It is especially interesting to know the events in world history which took place during these two gaps. The Egyptian, Indian, and Chinese cultures developed during the first gap, while in the second, Greek philosophy developed through how do you say that name? Developed through Socrates. Socrates, my man. Developed through Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Other great figures in this time include Buddha, Confucius, Alexander the Great, and Julius Caesar. So much happened which historians regard as important, but it was of little relevance to God. It was his history, his people, which really mattered. All right, now we're going to be looking at a brief overview of the books, all right? So Genesis chapter 12 through 50 covers the first period of Israel's of Israel's history when the nation was led by the patriarchs. It is possible that the book of Job was written at this time, since there are parallels with the sort of life the patriarchs would have lived. Relatively few books cover the next quarter. Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy were all written by Moses. The books of Joshua, Judges, and Ruth continue the history of that period. There are more books associated with the third quarter: Samuel, Kings, and Chronicles, plus the poetic books, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Solomon. During this third quarter, and after Solomon's time, there was a civil war when the 12 tribes divided into two parts. The 10 tribes in the north calling themselves Israel, the two in the south, Judah. This is the end of the United Nation. There were prophets during that time. Elijah. I want to stop right here really quick, you guys. A lot of this stuff, as far as like how everything is pretty much being separated from these books into these books into these books and like all these other patriarchs, I am going to be showing you a graph. There's a lot of actual things that I want you guys to notice. Another thing as well is if there is something that kind of isn't matching up, as far as like you might be getting confused as to who was in what time and what time that was. I'm going to be showing you guys kind of a photo of that too. I just thought I should let you guys know, just because it is a lot of information, but if you do get confused, just hit me a message in the comments, or just I guess you can go back in the video too, whatever's easier for you guys. But I will reach out to you guys, I promise, even if it's like 10 years later. I promise. I don't know if I should make promises I can't keep, but I'm gonna make that promise. All right. So going back to that, so there were prophets during that time, Elijah, and Elisha, but they didn't have their own books. Finally, there are a number of prophetic books associated with the exile. The northern kingdom of Israel fell to the Assyrians. Then the tribes in the southern kingdom of Judah were forced into exile by the Babylonians. Some contain prophecies from before the exile, and some during it, some after, and some having a mixture because the prophet overlaps more than one phrase. This tells us something of the importance of this event to Israel's history. It meant the loss of the land God had promised them and struck at the heart of their identity as a nation. Prophets warned the people that they were going to lose the land, and prophets warned the people that they were going to lose the land, and prophets, sometimes the same ones, comforted them when they did lose the land. They were prophets urging them to rebuild the temple when they returned to Judah after 70 years away. The books of Daniel and Esther were written from Babylon itself. The prophets Ezra and Nehemiah helped to rebuild Jerusalem and renew the... What was the time? No, yeah. Sorry, I just saw you blinking. I was like, oh man. Where was that? Right there. The prophets Ezra and Nehemiah helped to rebuild Jerusalem and renew the people once they had returned. The brief outline is enough to demonstrate that the book of the Old Testament are not always in chronological order. The history books are fairly accurately arranged, but the prophets are organized according to size, not chronologically. Hence, it can be confusing to know who was speaking when. All right, now we're going to be looking at the rise and fall of a nation. I'm kind of just reading the sub-chapters. I'm kind of just trying this out. If I don't feel like this is helpful, I'll just go back to just reading throughout the book. There is another aspect of the chart given on page 19, which is the chart right here. I'm going to show you again, which is worth underlining. The chart shows a dotted line representing the fortunes of the nation, which reach their height under David and Solomon. The line's gentle rise indicates the progress up to this point, with a sharp drop once the peak is reached. Every Jew looks back to that point and longs for it to return. It was the golden age. They look for a son of David to restore their prosperity. The last question the disciples asked Jesus before he ascended to heaven was about when he would restore the kingdom of Israel. They were asking the same question 2,000 years later. The line continues its descent until Israel is exiled by Assyria in 721 BC, and then Judah by Babylon in 587 BC. Following the 400-year gap, John the Baptist arrives, the first prophet for a long time. Then comes the life and ministry of Jesus. The New Testament covers over 100 years compared to the 2,000 years plus in the Old Testament. All right, now we're going to be looking at the order of the books, which I'm probably going to be showing you a chart right here. We have we have noted already the chronology. We have noted already the chronology chronology. Am I saying that right? Okay, cool. Of the Old Testament history is different from the order in which the books appear. There is also a big difference in the order of books as included in the Old Testament, as included in the English Old Testament compared with the Hebrew Bible. The English Bible is arranged in terms of history: Genesis to Esther, then poetry, Job to Song of Solomon, then prophecy, Isaiah to Malachi. The prophets are further split into major prophets: Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiah, and Daniel, and the minor prophets: Hosea to Malachi. However, the descriptions major and minor are given because of the size of the book and nothing else. These divisions are generally highlighted in the context page, if at all. So most readers are unaware of the change of category when they move from one section to the next. All right, so it looks like we're getting about like a 2-minute warning right now. We're gonna stop right now. We're actually about to get into the actual first chapter of the book. That was a lot, and I've actually already read that part because I'm reading it on my own time. But that was quite something, and it's actually really interesting that Jesus pretty much sat there as a boy, looking at all the nations kind of go through this trade route that everyone pretty much used during his time. And it's cool because, I mean, it's kind of like, it's really similar to like a boy just sitting in an airplane lounge and just watching people come and then people go. And it's a very interesting thing. But regardless, you guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this book. I'm trying my best to make a video every week. I am thinking though on making 2 videos a week. It is a bit much, but I'm willing to try, just so I can get more content out to you guys. But anyways, God bless you guys. Have an amazing day. And if you guys can all give a shout out to my best friend for helping me record this video. I couldn't do it without him. I mean, I could, but it's not as fun when you do it with someone that not only you care about, but they also care about you. Anyways, you guys, have an amazing day and enjoy yourself. God bless.
Bye-bye.